now to Major Markie, Sheff, a spokesperson for the Israel Defense Forces. Major, it's good to have you with us this morning. Israel has ramped up airstrikes against Gaza, but has yet to actually send in ground troops as negotiations continue for the safe release of more than 200 hostages at this point. Hamas has obviously released 4 hostages in the last few days. Does that slow trickle of hostages change the game and maybe pump the brakes on a ground invasion?
Well, I think the IDF is entirely focused on one thing in relation to Hamas, and that is dismantling it. Clearly, those hostages need to be returned, and they need to be returned immediately. 220 people brutally attacked, dragged over the internationally recognized border, brutalized and being held by an organization that committed acts that none of us can even imagine is possible in 2023. Beheadings, burnings, rapes, and of course, the murders that we know about, 1,400 people. And so those hostages need to be returned, but the IDF is absolutely focused on the dismantling of Hamas, and ground operations will commence when the IDF feels that that time is right and when the Israeli government is giving the IDF the go-ahead for that to take place.
Yeah, several soldiers have told us on this program they're just waiting for the green light. But, sir, back to my original question, has the slow trickle of these hostages, has that put a pause in being able to go in for a ground invasion? Would this have happened sooner if the 4 women had not been released?
Well, I would not make that assumption. There is, as we speak, and there has been now for many, many days, a continuing operation against Hamas, an operation from the air, which is degenerating Hamas's capacity. The ground operation will take place at a time when it is deemed the right time by the government and by the army. Yeah. But, and I come back and say, those hostages must be returned and must be returned now by Hamas.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just been pure evil what we've seen play out the last 2.5 weeks. We put a big spotlight on the more than 300,000 reservists who've been called up to fight on the front lines. How do your numbers, your IDF numbers, compare against Hamas? Do you greatly outnumber them? Do you even know what their full manpower and capabilities look like?
Well, this is an asymmetrical warfare. The Israel Defense Forces is the army of a democratic nation. Those 300,000 reservists are there because they feel it is their national duty. They're there because the horror of October the 7th was felt by every single household. Every single person who can and should be doing reserve duty is doing reserve duty following the scenes that we also played out on October the 7th. That horror absolutely remains. Hamas does not fight symmetrically. It is the most appalling terror organization. It hides behind civilians to attack civilians. The IDF's job is to uproot this Hamas terror organization while defending Israeli civilians, and whilst making sure that our focus is just on Hamas. So I'm not sure this is the numbers game, because it is not a symmetrical game. We are very clear about our mission, and that mission will be completed. There will not be Hamas in control of Gaza in the future.
Yeah, understood. You make great points. We also know Hamas recently tried entering Israel by sea. Israeli forces able to stop them. I know there are a lot of different, moving pieces to this puzzle that you're trying to get ahead of. Major Markie, Sheff, thank you so much for your time amidst the continuing chaos and turmoil. We do appreciate it, sir.
It's my pleasure. Have a good day.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.